In a bold and unapologetic stand against the entrenched injustices of the global system, African leaders are awakening to the clarion call of Burkina Faso's revolutionary leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. From the dusty streets of Ouagadougou to the bustling cities of Lusaka, a seismic shift is underway, a movement rooted in the unyielding demand for justice, dignity, and self-reliance. African nations are no longer content to be pawns in a world order that exploits their people and plunders their resources. Leading this charge is Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema, whose recent shocking demand for the European Union, EU, and the United Kingdom, UK, to refund African nations for non-refunded visa application fees has sent ripples across the continent and beyond. This is not just a policy stance. It is a declaration of war against exploitative practices that have long bled Africa dry. President Hichilema's bold declaration has laid bare a scandal that has long festered in the shadows of global bureaucracy. In 2024, African countries collectively hemorrhaged a staggering $67.5 million, approximately 60 million euros, in non-refunded Schengen visa fees, with an additional $59 million siphoned off by the UK's visa system. These figures are not just numbers. They represent the hopes, aspirations, and hard-earned savings of African citizens, many of whom face rejection rates as high as 40–50% for Schengen visas, particularly in nations like Ghana, Senegal, and Nigeria. It is unacceptable that our citizens lose significant sums of money on unsuccessful applications, Hichilema thundered in a statement that reverberated across the continent. His demand for a fairer system, one where fees are refunded for rejected applications, is a direct challenge to a global order that has profited from Africa's marginalization for far too long. This is not just about money, it is about justice, dignity, and the right of Africans to be treated as equals on the world stage. Imagine what $70 million could do for Africa. Picture schools rising in rural villages, hospitals equipped with state-of-the-art facilities, roads connecting communities, and industries buzzing with local talent. Imagine an Africa where leaders reject the beggar's mentality, where they stop chasing foreign aid at endless summits and instead invest in the boundless potential of their own people. Hichilema's call is a rejection of the status quo, a refusal to accept a system that exploits African dreams while offering nothing in return. It is a rallying cry for leaders to look inward, to harness the continent's wealth of talent, resources and ingenuity, and to build a future where Africa stands tall, unapologetic and unafraid. At the forefront of this revolution is Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the 37-year-old leader of Burkina Faso, whose fearless vision is transforming his nation and inspiring a continent. Traoré is not just a leader. He is a symbol of defiance, a man who has dared to challenge both Western and Eastern powers and chart a path of radical self-reliance. His message is clear and uncompromising. Africa's talent must stay home. No longer will the continent's brightest minds be lured away to Israel, Germany, Saudi Arabia, or other nations, only to face exploitation, discrimination, or worse. In a speech that shook the foundations of African leadership, Traoré declared, "The imperialist has always drawn several talents from here through scholarships and they never return home. I do not want this brain to end up abroad and not serve the country." His words were a scathing rebuke of leaders who have allowed Africa's youth to be siphoned off by promises of a better future abroad, only to see them risk their lives crossing treacherous seas or endure dehumanizing treatment in foreign lands. Traoré's revolution is not built on empty promises. In Burkina Faso, he is creating thousands of jobs, transforming every sector with an influx of young dynamic talent. Textile factories are springing to life, producing high-quality, made-in-Burkina Faso goods that rival global standards and reduce reliance on imported products. Agricultural initiatives are empowering farmers to not only feed the nation but also export surplus, bolstering the economy and proving that Africa can sustain itself. Infrastructure projects, from roads to public buildings, are being led by local engineers and labourers, demonstrating that Africans can build their own future without foreign contractors. Traoré's government is investing heavily in institutions that offer better pay, training and opportunities, ensuring that Burkina Faso's best and brightest have every reason to stay home. This is a leader who understands that Africa's strength lies not in foreign aid, but in its people, its innovators, its workers, its...
Welcome to African Revolution. This is your go-to space for everything Africa, from trending news and politics to vibrant cultures and untold histories. We bring you real stories, real voices, and real impact straight from the heart of the continent. Whether you're African or just passionate about Africa, you're in the right place. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications, and stay glued, because here we don't just watch history, we make it. Join the revolution, the African Revolution. Before we dive in, here's a quick disclaimer. African Revolution is an independent platform. The opinions expressed in our videos are for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. We are not affiliated with any government or political organization. While we strive for accuracy, please always verify sensitive or breaking news from official sources. Viewer discretion is advised where necessary. By watching and engaging, you agree to our terms of use. Stay informed, stay curious, and always question the narrative.
Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema has launched a scathing attack on Western nations over their exploitative visa policies, demanding that they refund billions of dollars in visa application fees to African citizens whose applications have been rejected. He emphasizes that Africans should not be charged for attempting to enter Europe legally when millions of others are entering illegally through the Mediterranean route. This controversial call has sparked debate across the continent, with some hailing President Hakainde as a champion for economic justice, while others criticize him for stirring tensions between Africa and the West. But one thing is clear, this charismatic leader is unafraid to speak his mind and stand up for what he believes in, even if it means going against some of the most powerful countries in the world. As the rest of the African leaders continue to act like puppets in the hands of the imperialists, only a few have shown bravery in speaking out against the unfair treatment of Africans at the hands of the Europeans. One such leader is Burkina Faso's new military strongman, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, and another is Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema. These two African leaders have become increasingly vocal in their criticism of Europe's exploitative visa policies and its devastating impact on African economies. They argue that the billions of dollars in visa fees collected from African applicants who are often denied entry are nothing more than a form of neocolonial exploitation. Now, just when you thought these two were done, Zambia's Hakainde Hichilema has come out swinging again. He is challenging the West to cough up billions of dollars that they've been unfairly collecting from Africans under the guise of visa applications. It is time for the West to face the consequences of their exploitative policies and learn that they can't just take advantage of African countries anymore. Speaking during the official opening of the third session of the 12th Parliament on Monday, President Hakainde said it is unfair for Zambia and other African countries to continue paying money to the UK and the European Union for visas when millions of other Africans are crossing the Mediterranean Sea into Europe illegally. We need our young people to benefit from scholarships to go and study in Europe and get work experience so that they can come and help develop our country. He said, "It is unacceptable for us to continue paying money to the UK and the EU for visas when millions of our brothers and sisters are crossing the Mediterranean Sea into Europe illegally, risking their lives, and in some cases losing their lives in the process." The Zambian leader pointed out that the UK and the EU are making billions of dollars by exploiting African countries and charging visa application fees. He emphasized that if Africans are denied visas, they should not be penalized financially. Why should we continue paying money to the UK and the EU for visas when millions of our brothers and sisters are crossing the Mediterranean Sea into Europe illegally? If they don't get work permits, why should they be penalized financially? He questioned. President Hakainde called on the Zambian government to engage with the UK and EU authorities to address the issue of illegal immigration and called for the release of illegal immigrants who are languishing in European jails. He also urged European countries to invest in Africa to improve the lives of Africans on the continent rather than on security measures to prevent illegal immigration. The Zambian president made it clear that he will not tolerate any mistreatment of Zambians in the UK and has summoned the British High Commissioner to his office to discuss the issue. Hakainde further challenged the UK and EU to invest in Africa instead of spending billions on security measures to curb illegal immigration. He stressed that investing in Africa would provide opportunities for Africans and reduce the need for them to risk their lives and seek irregular migration routes to Europe. President Hakainde has promised to prioritize the welfare of Zambians living in the UK and ensure they are treated fairly and with dignity. This latest call for action comes after the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, revealed that more than 700,000 refugees had crossed into Europe via boats and other what it described as irregular means since the beginning of 2023 alone. Most of them were from Turkey, Libya, Tunisia, and Egypt. The international organization said at least 148 people died or went missing trying to reach Europe in the first quarter of 2023, but believes the real figure could be much higher. In response, European officials have accused African countries of failing to control their borders and have threatened to cut aid and increase deportations of undocumented migrants. However, President Hakainde has hit back, arguing that Europe needs to do more to address the root causes of illegal migration, such as poverty and conflict in Africa. He emphasized that millions of Africans are fleeing war, persecution, and climate change and are seeking a better life in Europe. President Hakainde also pointed out that many of these migrants are young men who are the future leaders of their countries, and that Europe is depriving Africa of their potential by denying them the opportunity to return home and contribute to their development. The Zambian leader's call for a review of the UK and EU visa policies has been echoed by other African leaders and civil society organizations who argue that the current system is unfair and exploitative. They have called for more affordable and accessible visa options for Africans who want to travel to Europe for legitimate reasons, such as education, business, or tourism. The debate over visa policies between Africa and Europe is likely to intensify in the coming months as African leaders continue to push for more favorable policies that prioritize the needs of their citizens and promote greater cooperation between Africa and Europe. And as the rest of the African leaders continue to act like puppets in the hands of the imperialists. Only a few have shown bravery in speaking out against the unfair treatment of Africans at the hands of the Europeans. One such leader is Burkina Faso's new military strongman, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, and another is Zambia's president, Hakainde Hichilema. These two African leaders have become increasingly vocal in their criticism of Europe's exploitative visa policies and its devastating impact on African economies. They argue that the billions of dollars in visa fees collected from African applicants who are often denied entry are nothing more than a form of neocolonial exploitation. In fact, there is a growing sentiment among African leaders who are challenging the status quo and taking bold steps to prioritize the interests of their countries and citizens. Just look at what's happening in Burkina Faso as an example. When Captain Ibrahim Traoré came to power in September last year, he wasted no time in putting his own people first. In a shocking move that sent shockwaves across the country, he immediately replaced the French ambassador to Burkina Faso with his own citizen, Mamadou H. Dicko, breaking away from the long-standing tradition of appointing foreigners to the position. This bold decision was a clear signal of Traoré's commitment to prioritize Burkinabe interests and break free from the shackles of neocolonialism. But that's not all. Traoré also took decisive action against foreign companies that were exploiting Burkina Faso's natural resources for their own benefit. He terminated contracts with foreign gold mining companies, including one with a Canadian company, Samafo, which had been operating in the country for years. Traoré argued that these companies were not benefiting the local population and that it was time for Burkina Faso to take control of its own resources. He also took on the French language, which had been the official language of Burkina Faso since its independence from Dutch rule in 1960. Traoré recognized the importance of preserving the country's indigenous languages and cultures and made the local Moor language compulsory in schools. In addition to his efforts to promote linguistic diversity, Traoré has also been working to improve access to education for children in Burkina Faso. He has launched a program to provide free primary education to all children in the country in order to reduce the high rates of illiteracy and improve the quality of life for families. Traoré's commitment to improving access to education is part of his broader agenda to empower the people of Burkina Faso and create a better future for the country. By investing in the next generation, Traore hopes to create a more prosperous and equitable Burkina Faso for all. These actions have not been without controversy. Some critics argue that Traore's policies are too radical and that he is damaging Burkina Faso's relationship with its former colonial master, France. However, Traore remains undeterred and has made it clear that he is committed to putting the interests of his country and people first. His example is a beacon of hope for other African leaders who are also looking to break free from the shackles of neocolonialism and chart a new path for their countries. And Zambia's Hakainde Hichilema is another leader who is championing a similar cause. In his own way, Hakainde has been a vocal critic of the exploitative practices of Western countries, particularly the UK and the EU, and their visa policies that have made it difficult for Zambians and other Africans to travel to these countries for legitimate reasons. Hakainde argues that the billions of dollars in visa application fees collected from Zambians who are often denied visas are nothing more than a form of neo-colonial exploitation. He is calling on the Zambian government to engage with the UK and EU authorities to address the issue of illegal immigration and to call for the release of illegal immigrants who are languishing in European jails. If these two leaders continue to stay true to themselves and keep pushing for what they believe in, there is hope that other African leaders will be inspired to do the same. We need more leaders like Hakainde and Traore who are not afraid to stand up for their people and challenge the status quo. As African countries continue to push for more favorable visa policies and greater cooperation with Europe, it will be interesting to see how the UK and EU respond to these demands. Will they be willing to make concessions and improve their visa policies to make it easier for Africans to travel to their countries, or will they continue to resist these calls for change? Only time will tell. As always, thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an upload. And you can also support us through the link in the description below. Until next time, stay tuned.